Hi, and welcome to Find What Moves You. My name's Tracy, and it's my dream to inspire people to live active, healthy lifestyles for longevity and strength. And as we grow older, we tend to forget about those things. I'm going to be interviewing people that live active, healthy lifestyles for longevity. And today I have with me my very good friend, Lori Schmidt, who is going to tell us about her wellness journey as it pertains to mental health. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today, Lori. So welcome. Thank you so much for doing this today. And because I like to talk about this as it pertains to aging, I always ask people how old they are and then what their journey has been to this point.
Okay, well, I am 51 years old. My journey has probably started, in my mid-20s where I needed to get moving and really found a passion about it. And then the way fitness has impacted me throughout my lifetime obstacles or transition periods, like having kids and working, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you've been doing this since you were in your 20s, so you've tried a lot of different things. I know this because we belong to the same community, but I would just like you to tell everyone else, what kind of things do you do?
So right now, I really enjoy running, hiking, biking. This summertime is all about biking for me, and my most passionate thing I love to do is yoga.
Okay. I also know just from past conversations I've had with you, you do something called forest walks, and I've also heard people refer to this as forest therapy, and it's not like you and your therapist are going into the woods and bringing a couch with you for therapy. So I just want you to talk a little bit about what forest therapy or forest walks mean to you and what you do when you're out there.
Oh, absolutely. Forest walks was something that I really got in touch with about 7 years ago. I moved into a neighborhood and we had a walking trail in the forest nearby, and I never really appreciated it as much as I did then, because I found when I had a stressful day or I had so much on my plate, I would take 20 minutes, I'd go in the forest, I would go for a probably 20-minute walk only, and I would feel so much better. And I noticed that I walk into the forest, I feel a little anxious, and I come out and I'm feeling a little bit more calm. My breathing slowed down. I just found it incredibly therapeutic.
Okay, so one thing I know about, I'm a yoga instructor as well. We've studied at the same ashram. So one thing that we're taught is to really slow things down and take a look at what's around you. So some of the things you might do when you're on a forest walk, just for people that don't really, have heard forest therapy before and don't really understand, are you just kind of skimming through the forest and, not really looking around? You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. So ideally, if you're using this walk, not just for, just for exercise is an awesome side effect of walking, obviously, but what you'll notice is the smells. So you're walking, use your 5 senses. Try not to listen to music if you can, and what you hear, what you see, what you smell. Maybe you touch the bark on a tree and it just, just really being mindful and present in the moment, listening to your steps, on the leaves perhaps, things like that. And you'll find that if you went into the forest a little bit, shallow breathing, that by the time you leave, ideally it's going to elongate. You're going to breathe deeply. You're going to feel a little bit more calm. Unless you met up with a bear, right? Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah. There's always that worry where we live, right? But bringing one of the bear whistles with you, I think that could help a lot too. I have a friend that never goes anywhere without hers, and I'm with her all the time, so I don't need mine. So the other thing is spatial awareness. Like you and I have both been in a place where we've kind of tripped over the things that are in front of you, like there's rocks and there's stumps and all that kind of stuff. So that makes you focus. So it's really, really beneficial that way. So you are a addictions and mental health counselor professionally, professionally. So have you brought people into the forest with you to do these sorts of things?
I've participated in some of our rec activities have taken place in, like, whether it's hiking, and then we did kind of a pilot project where we brought people into the forest. They did a little survey before they entered. So they would rate themselves from 1 to 10, how they felt. How do you feel right now? It's usually like, I'm miserable, I hate this, I don't even want to go. And then they'd fill exactly the same survey, and it was always better. Like their scale was higher. They felt better, right? So like it's a proven, it's scientifically proven that being in the trees with all the oxygen is really beneficial.
Yeah, that's just something I wanted to ask you about, was like the benefits, like, for you, for work, for people that don't really, have never done this before, like length of time you would do this to get the actual health benefits. So let's talk about that. Like, how long would you go? Does it have to be a long hour walk, or?
You can go for 20 minutes. You can walk as fast or as slow as you want, but preferably you're going to walk at a pace where you're being mindful. You're looking around, you're seeing your surroundings. Maybe you're hearing the birds, really like just focusing on the 5 senses.
Yeah.
And that's it. And being careful where you're stepping.
Yeah.
And with the forest walks, like depending on where you are going, you might want to get a doctor's, let them know that you're going to go in the forest and do this walk, depending on, if you have any balance issues or anything like that. But you really, 20 minutes is you're going to start feeling it.
Yeah. So I know, like you just mentioned, not everyone is going to be able to do the forest walk because of the uneven terrain.
Yeah,
and walking in and of itself is probably the most beneficial exercise that we can all do. And these are really just ideas we're trying to give to people, right? So just to touch on a little bit of something that I'd like to talk about, it has to do with exercise and mental health, and something you and I have talked about before. We've both gone through it. And that's menopause.
Right.
So neither of us is an expert on anyone's experience with menopause, but I know for me, when I was, going through it, it really helped a lot to stay active and physical. So maybe we'll just touch on that a little bit about, how you can.
Yeah, so I found, and I'm still in the midst of menopause, but I found when I was feeling whether even if I was having like any kind of hot flash, I would still go for a walk in the evening because it's a little bit cooler. It always gave me a little bit more clarity. If I was feeling anxious or tension, because sometimes you have this tension buildup, you don't even know where it's come from, but it's hormonal. Sometimes going for a power hike or going for a run just burns that energy.
Yeah.
So that by the time you get back, you're feeling a little bit more chill, a little bit more calm. I found that anytime I had any kind of, feelings of, maybe sadness, maybe irritation, I would get clarity when I would go for a walk or a run or a hike.
Yeah.
Always.
So this isn't just for people who are, going through menopause, but the people that are around them too, because we're talking about the same thing here. Like I said, it's not the same for everyone. We don't all get that irritability. We get tired. If you looked at a list of 100 things of symptoms, you could probably point them all to menopause. So unfortunately, we all have a different experience. But I really felt like, that helped me out a lot. I wanted to talk about menopause to anyone that would listen.
Yes.
So like I said, it's not just for like the people that are surrounding those of us that are going through the menopause. You kind of need to understand what's going on there too. So we're just going to hold off there for just a couple seconds, and then we'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back to Find What Moves You. We're here with Lori Schmidt talking about activity and how it pertains to your mental health. And hopefully we didn't scare anybody off with the menopause stuff. Like I said, when I was going through it, I wanted to talk to everyone and anyone about it. Like, hey, how come nobody told me about what was going to happen here? Like, it wouldn't matter who it was. Menopause, thoughts. And people around you are like, are you okay? So, whatever you can do to help yourself through that is really beneficial. The other thing that I really found beneficial when I was going through it, or that I've suggested for people, is yoga.
Right.
And I already mentioned that I studied yoga at the same place you did because I came to it because of you. You and I have both found community through running, and fortunately I met you and you introduced me to the ashram that we went to. It's a very inclusive ashram. So we're talking about not just asanas, which are the poses, but we also do yoga nidra, we do meditation, and it's very inclusive and all-encompassing. So I just want you to start, maybe back up from where I've come now, and just let me and folks at home know what brought you to yoga in the first place.
Well, quite honestly, initially when I started doing yoga, I was probably in my mid-20s, and I would do power yoga. It wasn't about the calmness and relaxation. It was like, I'm going to do power yoga and burn 1,000 calories. It was more, I was using it just for that, and I didn't realize at that time the benefits other than the physical, the calorie burn. So as I got older and then I had my kids, what I realized was that I can slow down. I can do yoga and still get really awesome benefits with my breath work. It helped me parent better. I was better all the way around, because anytime I felt, any kind of anxiety, this is before menopause, I would just breathe. Everything I practiced during a class or a session, I would take that into my personal life. So I really do believe that now yoga is a lifestyle. It's not just at all about the asanas. It's more about the breathing, how you feel about yourself, your confidence. So what I really liked about the ashram that we went to, and was one of my main reasons, is that it's trauma sensitive, which doesn't sound like, why does yoga have to be trauma sensitive? You, as a teacher, might be working with a client that may have had, abuse issues in the past. So perhaps just going to touch them to help them with a pose is not good for them. They're not going to like that. It might scare them. It might, it might be a trigger. There's so many different things that can happen if you're dealing with a vulnerable population in regards to, whether their history has some violence in it or anything like that. So at the ashram, they really talked about, asking permission, how you can use touch without it crossing any boundaries, especially. And I found that incredibly helpful, not just for teaching in my own personal practice or at the studio I teach at. I found that it was very respectful. Like, it was very respectful to people, that everybody's body is different. Not everybody's going to want to be touched. We use eye masks in our yoga practice, and we will always ask, having something over your eyes, maybe it may be traumatic. We don't know what might have happened in somebody's past. As yoga teachers, unless you've done a full, assessment before they even become a student, we don't ask those kinds of questions.
Right.
So it's better just to teach this way in general, regardless if you know their history or not, is be trauma sensitive when you're teaching.
So that's a lot of what you said is really interesting to me, because before, I've been practicing like you for a really long time. My practice was very physical with some meditation, not a lot. And when I became a teacher, I thought that I would be a sensitive teacher automatically. And I learned differently, because we had to teach to each other. And I learned that I've always done yoga in this body, and people are different. So what I tell students now is that just because a yoga teacher tells you that you have to do something, it doesn't mean you need to do it, right? We were taught that, if this works better for you a different way, that's the way you do it. If you want to fold down on your mat and be in child's pose, that's where you go. So I think for people, it's really important to know that if you're in a class where you're trying to keep up and you're struggling, you need to find a new class. Doesn't mean you can't go back to that later. It just means that, that's not right for you for right now, right? So in your teaching, I think I've asked you this already, but really, why do you feel that we're doing, the asanas, the breathing, all of that? Why do you feel it's important?
Well, I think that it's important because it just gives you a deep connection with self. So sometimes in this hectic world, everything we're doing is actually external. Like we're going to work or we're driving our car, like everything's external. When you practice meditation and yoga, it's internal. You're breathing, even just slowing down your breath, doing meditation, you're going to come in, you're going to have some thoughts perhaps that you haven't thought about in years, but still need to be processed.
Yeah.
You've kind of just put them on a shelf and haven't worried about it. Taking deep breaths and being really mindful of your breath. Let thoughts come and go. If they need to come, you just let them come. You don't fight it. You let them come and then you let them go.
Can I stop you there for 1 minute? I think that people, they're not scared or they're intimidated by meditation because that just is sitting still for a really long time. And a lot of people, even me, at first I was like, that's way too long for me to sit still. And the thoughts keep coming. I'm not doing this right.
Right.
So really, if you could expand on that, would be lovely.
Yeah. So when you meditation could be only 1 minute or it could be 1 hour. So there's no wrong way to meditate as long as you're working towards focusing on your breath. You can even use a mantra if you want, like a saying, or you can just even have one thought, like maybe it's the ocean, something calming. So it doesn't have to be, you might have ADHD and you can't sit still for 5 minutes. That's okay. Do it for 1 minute and just focus on your breath. And every time a thought comes, instead of fighting and feeling bad about yourself because you're not doing meditation right, just let it flow by. Just as if it's in a cloud, like, okay, it's going by. Okay, good. And then, start over.
I love that. The way I deal with it is it doesn't matter where I am. If I'm first sitting into a meditation practice, my mind is like this busy freeway. The cars are going. And the idea is to slow it down to a quiet country road. And you're not going to flag the car down when it's, going by. You're just going to let it drive on by, right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that too. That's great. Yeah.
So I think there's a bit of a, not a perception, but there's been a bit of a North Americanizing of yoga where we're getting fit. And that's a part of it, right? Of course, that's what you want. But for people that are thinking, I'm not flexible, that's a big one, right? Or I can't do meditation. Could you just speak to that a little bit?
Right. So I know I say this and maybe it sounds corny, but as long as you're breathing deeply and thinking about it, you're doing yoga. You're already doing yoga. So, and yoga can fit for any body, any mobility. Like if you have mobility issues, you can still do yoga. I teach chair yoga. There's ability in everybody to do yoga if they want to. And a good teacher is going to give modifications.
I'm going to stop you right there, and we're going to be right back with Lori. Hi, and welcome back to Find What Moves You. We are still here with Lori Schmidt. So Lori, you and I have done some of a bit of a journey here. We've gone through forest walks, which probably most people don't understand. We've talked about the different facets of yoga, which a lot of people are probably, maybe we're confused about. Maybe we've cleared something up, hopefully. We've talked about menopause, which I'm sure will shake a few people up. And now I would like to talk about you again, because I know you've been through some things that I know that you don't mind sharing, because I did ask you beforehand. So let's first touch on some of the injuries that you've been through, what you've done to recover, your recovery time, anything that you would like to share, just to let people know, yes, we're aging, the body breaks down, it happens, but let's keep going. So.
Right. Well, what happened to me was I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis and started to feel a lot of pain in everything that I liked to do, like from walking to running to hiking. There's nothing off limits that didn't hurt my feet. So running, which I still kept on doing, I ended up tripping a lot more often than I needed to because I would try to overcompensate on my feet. Nevertheless, I ended up having foot surgery 3 times in 2 years, which I will say was very challenging. It was very challenging to, have your foot elevated for 6 weeks, to be in a cast. So, and you get down when you're not doing any of the things you love to do. because it was everything. I could read. I love reading, so that was great. I could read, but you still had that itch to move. So I talked to my trainer, Corey, and we came up with a program, and I was able to do he made a program so that I could just sit and do it, which was really helpful. And then getting back to not letting it hold me back. When the cast came off, each time I went back a little bit at a time, because I didn't want to re-injure it, and I would recommend for anybody, is if you're working on a program at all after an injury, to not jump from, doing a walk 1 kilometer and then the next day do 10. If you're going to do 1 kilometer after any kind of lower leg injury, then even adding in 10% increments, which sounds so little, but it's the right way to go. And, it might take a little bit longer, but it's the best for your body. But yes, arthritis has been probably my biggest struggle, just because it impacts my joints. So I just took up swimming. So swimming is supposed to not have any issues with joint health. It's supposed to be really really beneficial. So I'm going to take that up so I can do some things off of my feet.
So this is
balance.
The reason I wanted to ask you about that. I think when people are given a diagnosis of some kind, they think, well, that's it. It's over for me. Mm-hmm. When really the opposite is true. You should be moving more, not less. Correct. And I know that's easy for me to say from this side, or it might seem easy, but I've been through my fair share as well, of just niggling injuries. That's what we call it, right, runners?
Yeah.
Niggle. It means it's annoying you all the time. So we just want people to know that you're talking about low impact, you're talking about swimming, we're talking about doing yoga, and really keeping those joints moving so we don't get stuck, right?
Right, because as we age, the synovial fluid in between our joints starts to dissipate. So you want to promote synovial fluid. So even if it's uncomfortable, and again, with your doctor's permission or recommendation as well, you want to promote synovial fluid in your joints, and you only get that by moving.
Right.
So if you're uncomfortable to move, try something that isn't going to be cumbersome, like maybe accidental fitness. You go grocery shopping, park at the back corner.
Oh, I love that you're calling it accidental fitness.
Yeah, accidental fitness.
Yeah.
So you park at the back corner. You're maybe going to go to the movies. So find a nice place to park that's a little bit further away. Even if it's, a kilometer or a little bit less, just do it in small increments, because unfortunately every pound of weight is even worse for your joints. Yeah. So just keep moving, find what moves you.
Yeah. I did see you go through part of this where you had a surgery done and then had to have it redone.
Yes.
And, these things happen. It's not a blame on anybody, but it's just that these things happen, and you might be inclined to quit.
Yes.
Right? Because I watched you start again from base 1, and then, you got a little bit further ahead. You were getting better and better and better, and then all of a sudden, back to square one again. So, you had to have been discouraged.
Yeah, it was very discouraging. I was training for a full marathon at that time. I was told absolutely no running. Basically I'd been running on a broken toe, but the x-ray hadn't showed it, so they just said, keep doing what you're doing. So I did. And so it was very discouraging. I ended up walking that. And having the surgery a few months later.
Can I ask you, you ended up walking the...
I ended up walking a half.
Oh, you walked a half marathon?
Yeah, because I wasn't...
That's no small feat. Right. Really, it's not. And how, that's a long way to go. Yeah. So sorry, I interrupted you. I was okay. You ended up walking that. I think that's important for people to know.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not running. You were training for a full.
Yeah.
And you ended up doing a half, and you ended up walking it. Fantastic, right?
Because that's what I could do. So it's finding what you can do and embracing it. And it doesn't matter what it looks like it doesn't matter if it's the same as somebody else's, because everybody's journey is completely different. We have so many different variables in our life. No two people are the same. So why would somebody's fitness journey be the same as someone else's?
Yeah. I find that a lot with yoga too. It's what I always try to do, even for myself, is you have your little island, which is your mat. Stay on your mat, because if we're doing something like a balance posture where we're gonna maybe fall out, right? Don't worry about what's going on beside you. This is your island. Stay here. This is your experience, and it's the same with any exercise, right? So what is a normal, like if you're healthy, what's a normal kind of week look like for you as far as fitness goes?
Oh, so I do find that activity just it's almost like my gasoline, for lack of a better word. So I try and do something in the morning before I go to work, whether it's a walk or a run, something. Even if it's just all I got time for is 20 minutes, I'll do something. And then I teach my own personal fitness, my yoga classes 2 times a week. And then I try and get out biking every Tuesday and Saturday. And what else do I do? And I'm swimming. I'm taking swimming lessons right now. So that's been every day, Monday through Thursday. So usually a full day. There's at least 2 events of fitness, like planned fitness. And then the rest would be accidental fitness, because I always park at the back of even at work, I'll park at the back of the parking lot, because I want to get the extra movement. Motion is lotion. Sounds corny, but it is.
I love that when you say that. Okay, so I think the reason I was asking is there's just so many things available to people to do, and there's so much more than what we've even touched on today. I always focus on those people that do the bounce boots, because I think that's something I haven't done and I need to do that. But the whole point of us doing this is finding what moves you and what's good for your body. So really quickly, any tidbits of last advice?
I highly recommend, if you're thinking about, getting active, is to start with the accidental fitness, just to know that you can do it. Start by parking further away. I think that I would highly recommend. Or if you want to start running, just run one light pole at a time. You don't have to run a marathon. You can run.
Perfect, Lori. Sorry, I have to cut you off there. That's okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Lori, for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.